Yeah, we have to. We got to talk about the Brooklyn Nets, the fantasy appeal or lack of appeal for these players for this upcoming season. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the inspiration for Disgruntled Goat. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms. So we're here to talk about Brooklyn Nets. Again, a reminder, Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl, link in description, link at the QR code on the screen, link at linktree/LOFB Bowl, Roto Leagues, Points Leagues, Head-to-Head Category Leagues. There will be Best Ball Leagues. There will be Draft and Stash Leagues. There will be some auction drafts for points and category head-to-head. There'll probably be, I don't know if there'll be an auction Roto, we'll see. They're a little bit, again, they're just a little bit harder to set up, and I'm still working through something on those. But they will be coming. They won't be slow auctions, they'll be real-time auctions. So if you sign up for them, you got to be ready for the time. Simple as that. So that is all there at Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl. We are talking about the Brooklyn Nets, a team which honestly, I think they're going to be the worst team in the NBA. They've got a very good coach. Jordi Fernandez is really good. But you look at some of the other teams that are going to be bad, like Washington and Utah, or even like a Charlotte. This is a terrible roster. And it's going to be deliberately terrible. And they're going to be putting the ball into the hands of players who are terrible. And they're going to try and see what they can do. It is a mishmash roster. It is a mishmash team. And you should put very little faith into this squad for anything outside of, we'll see what happens here and maybe we use someone for a couple of weeks and move on. So if you want an overriding idea of where we sit on this stupid team, that's where I'm at. So let's start just by having a look at what my projected rotation is. And I don't know. I'll do this in 4 weeks' time. It'll be very different. I don't know. I think that they'll start with Ziaire Williams, Cam Thomas, Ziaire Williams, Michael Porter Jr., and Nic Claxton. They might not. Maybe we have Michael Porter Jr. at the 3 and Noah Clowney at the 4. Maybe it's Kobe Bufkin that starts. Maybe Terrence Mann starts. Maybe Haywood Highsmith starts. Their rotation, I think, that a 10-man grouping will include, apart from Yeoman, Thomas, Williams, Porter, and Claxton, I think you'll have Mann, Highsmith, Bufkin, Sharpe, and Clowney early on. And you'll notice they had, 5 first-round picks? And I only have one of those guys in that initial rotation. Saraf, Wolf, Powell, and Traore aren't there because I don't think they're just not going to play Mann or Highsmith or Sharpe or Clowney or Bufkin. This is why this team is... and by the way, today they just waived Keon Johnson, who started a bunch of games for him last season. They've got too many players. The pimple Derek Whitehead is probably going to have to get waived. There's too many guys. So you're saying, I'll wait till later in the year when Drew Timme plays. He's not going to be on the roster. Their roster is just got... At the moment, I'm projecting that Tyrese Martin gets waived. Derek Whitehead, Drew Timme. They've got the mayor, Ricky Council, on this team. Oh, mate, Fenbo Zheng. Those of you who are big Fenbo FC fans. He's there. Not for long. Their two-way guys are Etienne and EJ Liddell. It's just a stupidly weird team. So that's how I think the rotation is going to look. But, man, I don't know. It could be any number of ways. And we've got a lot of questions regarding the projections on this team. Because Cam Thomas took the qualifying offer. Cam Thomas thinks that he is better than what he is. The Nets think he is worse than what Cam Thomas thinks he is. Cam Thomas wanted whatever contract he wanted, and he ended up taking $6 million. Now, he has a no-trade clause implied in that, but I think that if the Nets did trade him, he would be okay to get out of there. I don't think there's any shot that he plays for Brooklyn next season. He struggled last season. I know someone's going to sit here and wait. There's one person. You say it. Just say it now. I'll give you 30 seconds. It's a contract year, Josh. He's going to ball out. Well, you know what last season was for Cam Thomas? Contract year. And you know how well that season went? Terrible. So maybe Cam Thomas is great. He's not, and he never has been. What Cam Thomas is a very good one-on-one scorer, which is fantastic if you don't want to win games. He did, and to be fair to Cam, his passing improved last season. It's still not very good. But if they have no point in investing in him in the future, and he's not going to be on this team, are they actually going to prioritize him with 34 minutes a night? Now, when he's out on the court, I don't think there's much you can do to stop him shooting. The coach can't actually physically get out there and drag the ball out of his hands. But they can just not play him that much. Especially when you've got Sharpe, Traore, Yeoman, Powell, Bufkin, all that can play guard positions. So while it would seem that on a terrible team, Cam Thomas would be a great usage sort of guy to have a look at, I'm not really sure that's true. Just because I think there are going to be not only Cam Thomas priorities, but organizational priorities that are different. He had a 32 usage last season in 31 minutes a game and played only 25 games. He scored 24 points, which is great. He almost got to 4 assists. That's pretty good. But overall, he's just not that strong. 74th in points leagues, 92nd in category leagues, Cam Thomas. And given the uncertainty of how he's used this season, I'm just very much unwilling to get excited about what he can bring. At the moment, his rank on Yahoo is 64. No way do I want to do that. None whatsoever. Him at 93 on ESPN, 100 for ESPN points leagues, go for it. Totally reasonable. Fits, makes sense. 96 on Fantrax, I like it. Those other numbers though, that early 64 on Yahoo, just not a single chance in the world that I'd be wanting to do that for Cam Thomas because there's just too much uncertainty. Then how do they use the vets? Terrence Mann is a solid player. Haywood Highsmith is Eric Spoelstra's friend, but he's a solid enough player. Nic Claxton, Michael Porter. How much do they play? Because like I detailed with that 10-man rotation, 4 of their first-round picks aren't in that, meaning that 4 of those guys would have to not play out of that rotation to get the first-round guys in there. So how much do these guys play? Do we see Terrence Mann playing 29 minutes a night to start the year and that just ramps down or he's traded or whatever? Is Highsmith going to even be ready to begin the season? I'm not sure. There's just a lot of questions. And then one of the other questions is talking about veterans. Nic Claxton was pretty bad last season, got ejected from about 35 games. He's on a huge contract and they just re-signed Day'Ron Sharpe. So does Day'Ron Sharpe and Nic Claxton split minutes? Does Claxton play 30 and Sharpe plays 18? That's part of why I'm going to be a little bit hesitant on Claxton. Now, his ADP is not high. If he was playing 32 minutes a night, we'd look at him as a top 60 guy, but I don't think we can do that with him. Now, his points league rank, Claxton's 71 on ESPN, and that's not good. His category league is 83, because that's expecting him to be a 27-minute-a-night player, and I'm not expecting that. I don't think that's going to be something that he does. But I guess he could. But Sharpe is also an interesting player. If Day'Ron Sharpe played 24 minutes a night, we would draft him in 12-team formats. So at the moment, when we're talking about the guys that I've mentioned there, Thomas, I'm not going to be touching Cam Thomas inside the top 90. Nic Claxton, I'm not going to be taking inside the top 90. Day'Ron Sharpe is an interesting name, but could also just fizzle into nothing. What about the rookies? How will they deploy all these guys? I think Yeoman will start, but he might not. Maybe it's Bufkin. And then where does Traore play? Is Danny Wolf going to get any minutes as a third-string center? What about Drake Powell, who's just don't think he's going to have a good fantasy game at all? And basically it's just going to be duplicative of Terrence Mann. And then Ben Sharpe, who's, what is he, a point forward, point guard, bad shooting? I don't know. Because they will play them all at some point, meaning that 4 of those 10 guys that I mentioned earlier are just not going to play. The last part of this projection question is Michael Porter Jr., who has been solid in Denver. Absolutely. And there's we'll see, we'll get a really good indication this season of people thinking that Cam Johnson's a significantly better player than Michael Porter. I don't agree with that. I'm not saying that I think that Porter is better than Johnson. I just think that it's much closer than it's a clear-cut decision that Johnson's just way better. We get into a situation now where Porter moves into the spot that Johnson was in last season. So does he do anything different? Does he decide he can pass ever? No, don't know. Will his usage rise higher? I would say it almost has to, given where he was last season at 20 usage. That could easily be 26. He's a solid enough rebounder. He's an excellent three-point shooter who's also played more games than Cam Johnson over the last 5 seasons. He had averaged 7 rebounds and 2 assists last season in 34 minutes. I think he plays 33, 34 again, but how long does he play for? Do they start fake injuring him down the stretch? So Porter, for example, could be an interesting pick, 86th on ESPN for category leagues. Oh, that's okay. But his points league rank at 52 is just nonsense. His Yahoo rank at 53 is also nonsense. And that's not even to say that he can't be close enough to that. But that's you saying, I think he's going to be available for my playoffs. And I don't know how you can say that about Michael Porter. Now, maybe he can do more. Maybe 2 assists become 3.5. Maybe playing next to Nic Claxton instead of Nikola Jokic means that he grabs more rebounds, but he can be less efficient because Jokic isn't feeding him. It's possible too. 0.6 steals and 0.5 blocks? Maybe, but I don't know. I doubt it. I think there is some ability for Porter to expand his game, but there are too many risks for me to want to take him around that 50 zone, which some of those sites suggest that maybe he should go at. We're going to come back and talk about over and undervalued players in a sec. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by Monarch Money. There are so many people who can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth. It might be 401ks or properties or investments, and we don't have the full picture. You can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money, the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. It can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can maximize your investments, check your savings rate, track your spending. Where can you cut? What can you put into certain areas to make your financial future better? Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser. Half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. We're talking Brooklyn Nets here, previewing their season. We've talked a little bit about Cam Thomas. We've talked a little bit about Michael Porter. We've talked a little bit about Nic Claxton. So what are we going to get into talking about now with this team? We're going to talk about, are there any undervalued players on this team? No, there's not. I don't think anybody for a standard league fantasy lens is currently underrated. I think Claxton's about properly rated. I think Thomas is properly or overrated. And I think Porter is probably overrated in a lot of spots. And then it's just a lot of flyery type players. So no, I don't think anyone qualifies at the moment on this Nets team as an undervalued guy. It's a little bit different to flyers, but yeah. When we talk about overvalued players, there's quite a few scenarios here where I just think that we're in the wrong spot in terms of looking at where they are. So Michael Porter at a rank of 53 is too high, especially for a Yahoo points league situation where he's not as good in points leagues as category leagues generally. At 53, there's just too much risk baked into that. I think Cam Thomas is way too high for category leagues based on Fantrax, ESPN, and Yahoo. And even that Yahoo X rank of 53 for points leagues, while he is a better points league guy than category league guy, I just don't want to do that. It's too high. I'm not interested in it. And then I think Nic Claxton's rated too high on ESPN for category leagues at 83. I think on Fantrax for Claxton, where he sits at 100, it's probably a little high. I don't like him on ESPN points leagues with a 71 ranking either. And we've just talked about those three guys in some sizable length. In terms of star players, is there anyone that I think are top 50 guys? Not really. I think that it is possible that Michael Porter Jr. gets there. But I also don't think he's going to be available for a huge amount of fantasy playoffs. So it's just not an interesting player to take, unless I'm getting him at 80. Again, if I get Cam Thomas at 100, I'm okay with it. Claxton at 120, go for it. Porter at 90, totally cool. I'm good with that. And they are the three guys who really should even be considered in the top 100. But I don't think you want any of them near the top 50, or you don't want to even think about them in that top 50 zone. That just doesn't make sense to me to be looking at them there. There are a lot of new arrivals on this team, which is always interesting to see how the team fits together. Michael Porter Jr. arrives, obviously. Yegor Yeoman comes across as the 9th pick in the draft. Now, I very obviously, very vocally, did not like this pick at all. I don't think Yeoman is going to be a strong starting point guard. It was really interesting that his major strength was running pick and roll, and he just didn't do any of that at Summer League. He just started bombing threes, and they went in at 44%. That was only 3 games in Summer League. He played 25 minutes a night. He hit 3 threes a game, but he averaged 1 assist. I think you can throw all of that out. 3-point shooting and the volume of it is important. The percentages are not. The assist rate is annoying, it's confusing, and I don't think it's indicative of anything. Even if he does start the season, Yeoman, as the starting point guard, is he going to play 30 minutes? I really doubt it. Like Kobe, Bufkin, Traore, and Saraf are probably going to get minutes at point. And I don't think that Yeoman is going to come in as such a better player than all these guys that he's getting 32 a night. Now, I do think that taking Yegor as a last round pick makes a ton of sense. He's ranked at 187 on Yahoo. Reasonable, right? I don't have him ranked inside the top 200 personally, but when we're talking about flyers in standard leagues of who's got the upside here, could he be a starting point guard and gets me 7.5 assists with 1.4 steals? Maybe. Or is he like Isaiah Collier, where he gets 7.5 assists and 1.5 steals and everything else is terrible, which is what Collier was last season? I think there's a real risk of that. Yeoman is 159 on ESPN. Again, probably too high, but if you wanted to tie ranking into, hey, where do we take a chance on this guy? I get it. I don't understand Yeoman being 115th for ESPN points leagues. That is insane to me. That'll be a crazy investment in Yeoman in a league. That you don't want to do. But yeah, as a 11th round guy, just to take a flyer on somebody, as what we think at the moment is going to be the starting point guard, go for it. They also bring in Terrence Mann, who was part of the reason they got one of those extra first round picks, is when the Hawks were able to dump Mann to get Porzingis in. Terrence Mann has had many opportunities to be a fantasy relevant player, and he's never been able to do that. I don't think that we should be investing in Terrence Mann in any sort of drafts, and none of the sites. He's got an ADP of 73 on Yahoo, but that's a garbage number. It doesn't really mean anything. No one's really looking at him as a standard league guy, and you shouldn't. But when the Nets do have schedule advantages, schedule plus spots, then yeah, like he will be one of those guys, especially if he's getting 27, 28 a night, where you just accumulate enough. You'll accumulate enough value to maybe use him in those areas. And he's just another guy cock-blocking some of those younger players on the team, meaning I don't think he's going to be able to do that all season. Haywood Highsmith is a guy that generates numbers through steals, and that's really it. He now doesn't have Eric Spoelstra in his camp giving him random minutes. And we know what the Haywood Highsmith cycle was. Start Haywood Highsmith, watch him and go, this guy's trash. Bench him, drop his minutes, DMP him, then look down your bench 3 games later and go, who's that sprightly young guy at the end of my bench? Haywood? Is his name? Oh, let's try him. And we repeat that 7 times during the season. I don't think that'll happen in Brooklyn. But again, it's just another name that's in the mix, that'll play the 4, that'll play the 3, that can impact some minutes of others. Kobe Bufkin is one of the more interesting players because he's just never played. He's played like 30 games in 2 years through multiple injuries. He's a combo guard. He's got good size. He should be able to shoot and pass and defend pretty well, but who knows? If we see that Kobe Bufkin is starting ahead of Yegor Yeoman, then yeah, we would draft him in standard leagues. And if you wanted to take a flyer on him now, because that's what the last rounds are for, I still think he's going to be behind Yeoman in the pecking order, but Yeoman literally might be terrible, and maybe Bufkin gets that thing. Or maybe Bufkin's a 28-minute-a-night player, that Keon Johnson's not there. Jalen Wilson, I think, will be deprioritized, and who knows how much they play Cam Thomas. So I'm not going to rule out Kobe Bufkin as an option for us. I think that there's a chance he's a top 200 player. I don't feel super confident about that. But I do think there is a chance that he can get there. We just haven't seen anything. But if you want to get an opportunity to be able to show something, it's on a team like this where, there's nobody good. The other new arrivals are all the other 4 first-round draft picks. Nolan Traore, another point guard, who I think is going to be better than Yeoman. but not this season. He will not have, like, obviously Bufkin is there now too, so he's just not going to have many opportunities. But watch him for his 3-point shooting and assist numbers. You got Danny Wolf, a point center, who I don't think will do that in the NBA. I don't think his shooting's going to be good enough. And currently, there's 2 other centers ahead of him. There's Ben Saraf, who's like a small forward point guard combination hybrid whose shooting is really rough, but I think his defensive numbers can be pretty good. But he's going to have a very rough transition. And then Drake Powell, whose numbers in college were not good. He's sort of a defensive, low-usage wing. Maybe he can shoot, but as a rookie, he almost definitely won't. And they'll all get opportunities and make this team terrible by design, give them reps, and there'll be moments when you go, oh, maybe we try Wolf, or maybe we try Traore, but it's going to need trades and it's going to need injuries to open up enough opportunity for those guys to actually be useful for us. And we really just shouldn't be considering any of Traore, Wolf, Saraf, and Powell as draftable players outside of deeper league scenarios. Like, you can take a look at Sharpe if you want. You could take a look at a flyer on Ziaire Williams or Terrence Mann if you really are desperate for it. You take a flyer on Yeoman or Bufkin in your 120 to 150 picks in a 12-team league, or deeper in 14-team leagues as your flyer types. But otherwise, not really. Today's episode is also brought to you by OpenPhone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. So think about the last time that you had some sort of an urgent need. You weren't finding someone, calling them and go, oh, we'll just wait for them to get back to me, tick-tock, as my toilet turns into a water feature. No, you go on to the next one. Or you go on to the next one until someone can come and fix your problem now. That's where OpenPhone comes in, the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. It lets you manage business calls and text. OpenPhone does from a single app. The shared inbox feature is a game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat, and the AI agent handles after-hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a customer. OpenPhone is offering you guys 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonnba. That is openphone.com/lockedonnba. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone. No missed calls, no missed customers. All right, so let's go through a few more things here on this Nets team for this upcoming season, just covering off a few more players or a few more little segments that we need to get to. Again, this is going to be a bad team. I think there are 3 guys who have some breakout potential. One of them is Kobe Bufkin. Do I think he's going to do it? No. Am I at least considering moving him into that bucket of, hey, let's see, is there a flyer upside sort of situation here? Like, yeah, like I'm going to move him into that area. I think Day'Ron Sharpe, if he got 24 minutes or somehow overtook Claxton, which I think is a very big long shot, but if Day'Ron Sharpe does that, then yeah, he has got breakout potential to have a pretty big season. And the other one there is Noah Clowney, who was a disaster last season. That's not who I wanted to put up there. I didn't want Jaeger Yeoman's numbers to come up, but I will go in and change that because I wanted Noah Clowney to come up as an option. I don't know why that's the case. Let me go fix that. Tech issues. Here we go. Noah Clowney. He just changed his shot diet completely. He started taking 1 million shots from 3, not really doing anything around the rim, and he shot 36% from the field as a power forward center. He shot 84 from the line, which is a big surprise. He contested shots, but he didn't block any, and he ended up playing just 23 minutes and having multiple ankle injuries. But it's year 3 for Clowney. Could they start him at the 4 with Porter at the 3 and Ziaire Williams coming off the bench? I guess so. I don't know that Clowney... Well, no, I don't know. I'm not considering him a late round flyer type at this point. But if I'm sitting here... Like, if I sat here in January and go, man, like, Danny Wolf's actually an unbelievable fantasy pick, I'll be stunned to say that. If I sit there in January and go, hey, Noah Clowney's averaging 14 and 8, 2 threes, 1.5 blocks, 1 steal, shooting 46 with 80 from the line. I'll go, oh, yeah, okay, that's a nice surprise, but I see why it happened, or I see how it happened. I'm not expecting it from Clowney. But I think that, again, when we look at the positional value of guys, when we look at who's on the roster and where it makes sense, if Clowney comes in and is healthy and like hits a 2 ever and blocks some shots like he did as a rookie, then we're a little bit more interested in it. And I'm not going to rule him out as being someone who can maybe take that step up and have some sort of a breakout. So, yeah, Bufkin, Sharpe, Clowney, they're all there. They're all sort of interesting. But, yeah, the chances of that happening are just not particularly high. I haven't really talked about the other starter who I think is going to be a starter on this team, and that is Ziaire Williams, because I just don't think he's good enough. He played last season and played like 25 minutes a night. He had hot stretches and poor stretches. He's had a lot of injury issues, his knees, and had some ankle problems. Even if he starts, again, there are just so many squishy parts here with minutes for players. If he's playing the 3, it means Porter's playing the 4, which means fewer minutes for Clowney. Is that what they're going to go with? And where does Highsmith fit? What about Ben Saraf? Where does he go into the rotation? So is he just going to be one of those 25 to 26 minute a night starters who's solid enough, and when the schedule works out, you stream him in? Yeah, I think that's probably more realistic. Yahoo's got Ziaire ranked at 273. That's fine. Like, I've got him a little bit higher than that. Whatever, he's more of like a 14-team league player versus being a 12-team option. In terms of injuries, Haywood Highsmith did suffer a knee injury. I don't think he's going to be ready to start the season, which probably means we're in a spot where maybe he's not even a rotation guy if someone else is filling that role, like Clowney or Williams. And then Kobe Bufkin had the shoulder injury last season. He's had multiple injuries clearly over 2 years. I think that he'll be fine and ready to go to begin the season. And then they had the fake injuries of guys like Claxton at the end of last season and Thomas's hamstring. They're okay. They're going to be good to go. But again, who knows what's going to actually pop up for this squad during the season. Schedule-wise, there's nothing super important with them. They do have 14 back-to-backs, which is one above the league minimum, which is 13. But like I've said, and I'll stress a lot, these back-to-back decisions on a lot of these teams, that not that they don't matter, but it's such a small difference. 3 back-to-backs over 25 weeks that having a gigantic focus on that is just not a good use of your time, I don't think. So when we're talking about this Nets team, like, I think Michael Porter is going to have good numbers, but I'm not willing to invest a 5th round pick in him, a pick in the 50s, because I just don't trust his reliability. Cam Thomas, I think they've got every reason to deprioritize him. And he's just a painful guy to watch, and I'm not interested in that. But if it's in the hundreds, I'm okay with it. Like, if Porter's in the 80s, I'm good with it. Nic Claxton, if he played 30 minutes, we'd go into the 60s, but I don't think he will. So, like, in hundreds, maybe? And then you got flyer types. Clowney, Yeoman, Bufkin, Sharpe. The guys that I would take the chance on in the last 3 rounds of a standard draft are Yeoman and Bufkin, because I don't know who's going to start at point guard. I'm not interested really in taking a flyer on Ziaire Williams or even Clowney or Mann at this point, or Jalen Wilson or any other rookies. But there's enough there in Yeoman or Bufkin just to see, again, at this early stage, I'm recording this September 18, I don't know who's going to start. But if one of them gets the nod and is a 30-minute player, then yeah, we get a little bit more intrigued with it, even though it's still a chance they're both going to be bad. A pretty good chance they're both going to be bad, to be honest. So that's the Brooklyn Nets. A team that is really bad. A roster that is very confusing and is going to lead to so much chopping and changing throughout the season that it's just going to be hard to feel any level of trust with these guys. I trust that you'll go to linktree/LOFBBowl to sign up for Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl. Link is in the show description. Link is on the QR code on the screen as well. And what I'll also trust that you do is if you've got a hype available and you're on YouTube mobile app, go hit the hype on that button, but subscribe and thumb up and leave your comments down below as well. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.